Welcome to Fireside Chats with Dr. Diane. Today's guest is Ray Darwin. He's here from the Bay Area, and he has been involved in transitioning adults with disabilities into productive lives. Welcome, Ray. Thank you for coming.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Diane.
So you've worked with about 50 to 75 individuals over your career?
Over the span of 20 years, yeah.
And what's key is that we all need dreams for motivation. And you told me a couple of stories, one about someone who wanted to be a pilot and how...
He decided that was probably not his cup of tea, and now he's a maitre d' at a small restaurant.
Mm-hmm. I was very happy doing
Perfectly happy doing that. He loves it. He's got a big smile. He's perfect at the job.
Yeah, so one of the takeaways from that story is that you didn't squash him at the beginning and say, no, you can't be a pilot, think of something else, you need to work at as a waiter or something like that at a restaurant. Then he would have felt like he wasn't really being listened to, but he learned all the skills that now he can use to be working at a restaurant. He learned all those skills along the way, but what was motivating him was to be a pilot, and it was his own decision. He was the one that said, gee, I'm not so sure this is what I want to do. And this may be a little bit above me, but he was okay with that because it was his decision.
Exactly.
And similarly, you were talking about someone who wanted to be a comedian who wasn't really that funny.
Yeah, our guy. He loved to tell jokes, and he would come in with his little derby hat and things, where we were, and it really wasn't that funny, and we thought about that as a staff team and said, okay, well, this isn't going well, but in the process, he probably, he needs to be validated, that's a fine thing to do. So we had to talk with him. I said, so Ryan, most of the people that are breaking into the show business have a day job so they can finance, and then they can go to their comedy clubs, and do their thing. It ended up that he found his place in a really high-end frame shop that, making fancy frames for places like this, really pretty frames, a lot of money. And he was excellent at his job. He worked 3 days a week, and he came in, did his job, and left. And at the end of our training period, the frame shop supervisor says, we don't want to see him go. I says, well, you can hire him.
Right,
and
yeah.
They hired him.
And that's a wonderful story.
It's a great story.
Yeah. And I remember you also telling me about a young woman who went to a college course about sign language and inspired her to become a sign interpreter.
Yeah, and that's a classic case of motivation, self-motivation, She was really shy to begin with, and she didn't talk to many people and so on. I made her a travel agent for us taking a bus trip once, and it kind of broke her out a little bit. And we were going to the local junior college called Diablo Valley College in the Bay Area, DVC, and she enrolled in a sign language course because she thought it would be fun. And she got really into it, and there was a great communication because sign language is communication, another language. And so she continued to take the courses that it took, went all the way to ASL 3, as they call it, and then she needed to take an interpreter course. So we taught her how to take the bus to Berkeley, where the only interpreter course was, and she's on her way to becoming an interpreter.
It's wonderful. And I've heard
amazing.
And I've heard of other people who've gone from being told that you're mentally retarded, you'll never amount to anything, to actually graduating from college. And
yeah.
It's so there's a big message here, and so one of them is to not to discourage them in their dreams. That those can be motivating factors for getting them to do things. And then
the worst thing you can do is stop them in their tracks and try to divert them to something else. That's right. Their life.
And then it's not only just about careers. I mean, it's also about recreational things. You helped a couple of guys go to a baseball game. They wanted to go to a baseball game. You helped them to learn how to read the buzz and go to the baseball game. And then you even, I love this story, you even helped a young man in love, trying to at least learn how to approach a young lady. You want to tell that story?
Sure I do, because that's one of my favorite stories. We had this, I didn't have him, but our client, our friend was enrolled in an adaptive PE class at DVC at the junior college, and in the process of coming, they had to take the cross city bus basically. And at one point, I wanted to make sure that this boy had some autistic-like tendencies and very shy and not able to carry on conversations, very well. Just really short conversations. We were working on doing that. And one of the things that he told one of our staff was that he treated our staff like it was the second mom, right? And they said, "I want you to find me a girlfriend." And I said, no, I don't want to touch that one, But, they did a good job. But during this time, when he came down to the bus stop, I was watching from a parking lot, so he didn't know I was there. Just walking to make sure he was doing what he needed to do to get back home. And so he was standing on this little grassy knoll, and here comes this really cute little college girl walking along. It was a hot day, so she came over and stood by him in the shade in this grassy knoll, waiting for the bus. And so I noticed that once they exchanged pleasantries, like, "Hi, how are you?" and "My name is blah, blah, blah," then he stopped and he would kind of turn away. So I got on my cell phone and I texted him, and he reached in his pocket and read my message, which was, "Turn around and talk to her." And so, like the good boy he was, he put it in his pocket and turned around and he talked a little bit more to her, and I could see that there was some conversation going. And then the bus came. So I didn't want to give this up. So I got my phone out again and I said, "Get on after her, and when she sits down, you sit next to her." And then pulled it away. And he did that. He complied once again. As a good boy. She sits down in one of those parallel seats there, and he sits next to her. And then I get on and I walk back there. He sees me, we say hello. And then I'm watching from 3 or 4 seats back, and he's facing another direction again. So I text him again and I said, "Turn over and, face her and start and talk to her about what are you taking or something, and get this conversation going." And so he did. He turned over and he would talk, and then he would stop, and I would text again and say, "Turn around."
It's a new version of that famous story of the famous story where somebody's serenading for
serenading.
Right, someone else is serenading from a distance, giving the crypt notes.
That was the end of the bus ride. Was pretty much into that relationship,
right.
But it was a good start, I thought.
Good start, yes,
and it provided some great story.
Oh, absolutely. And now, I mean, when you look at this technology that can be in the hands of everyone, a smartphone, and what that can do, and the gap really between how special education is still teaching these people things as though they don't have access to it right at their fingertips. I mean, why do they still need to show that they can do the multiplication tables or whatever if they just have something where they just need to show how they can use their iPhone? And in fact, you've told me that you've learned how to use your own iPhone from them.
From them. They taught me pretty much everything I need to know about the iPhone. And when I have a problem, I go to them. Still.
Good technical support, are they?
Yes.
And that's the thing, is that they really, there's a pride and and self-esteem issue that comes up where when they want to be able to work, they want it. And one young lady, she wanted to be independent. That was her major goal, and she's now living independently and doing it as a puppeteer?
Yes.
As a
this
puppeteer.
lady is a friend of mine, wasn't my client, but a friend of mine who's about 30 years old, and her dad was a financier of some sort. He actually really knew money and so on, and how to make it work. And she declared one day that she was living in a group home, and she declared that she wanted to live in her own apartment. And that declaration was set so many things and so many people in motion, and including her dad, and she is now living independent, and she is a puppeteer, which she dearly loved and had some puppets, and now it's a business for her. And she's living independently in Marin County, which is really hard to do without roommates. But she's got it done.
And this is someone with the diagnosis of Down syndrome, which
Yes.
is, so their IQ is, by definition, it's down below 70,
But she is happy.
She's happy
She's
and
happy
she's
with what
capable.
she's doing.
She's happy,
Yes.
she's capable.
Yep.
Because a lot of our IQ tests, the problem with them is that they really don't look at the whole brain. They're testing for a lot of the skills that are the kinds of skills that are really kind of becoming passé. They're the kinds of things our computers do for us, And what these people are showing us is that they have other abilities. Like, for example, and there are workarounds, that they're very, like, I love the story about the person who was working at the grocery store.
Grocery store, right. Our friend, he spent his 12 years trying to learn how to read, and reading actually never accomplished that. He really couldn't read. He had no word attack. He couldn't sound things out and so on. And it was just too much for him. And for us, as a transition team, we would have him for 4 years, and we needed to have alternative ways for him to communicate and learn things. Mm-hmm. So at one point, so we did a bunch of things, but one of the things we did is we facilitated his hiring at Safeway into a local supermarket, and they were great about receiving him. They put him to work right at the bottom where everybody else is. He's a card-carrying member of the union, by the way.
Wow!
This is what he had to do,
right?
To work there. And then he did his retrieving carts and bagging and so on. But when I saw him about a month later, I asked him, what do you do when people come ask you where things are? No, he's recognizing, he knows that I know he doesn't read. And so he says, oh, that's easy, I'll show you. What I do is I start walking up and down the aisles, tell them, follow me, and I'll walk up and down the aisles until they find it. Mm-hmm. And then I look and I say, oh yeah, there it is. Mm-hmm. And then he remembers where it was. And now he's just celebrated his 10th anniversary at Safeway, and he's got the run of the place. I hear him on the phone all the time. Brenda, will you come here? Will you do this, do that? He's a member of that community now.
Yeah, it's funny. You were telling me about how he fakes looking like he can read. He'll open up a magazine.
Sometimes, at some point, he said, "You know what I did when they went to get something? I opened up this manual and I pretended like I could read." I said, mm-hmm. Good idea, and I kind of laughed a lot about it. I said, but that was a great attitude to take, that you're going to look like everybody else in the world and do the things that they do. Perfect. Right. So, think that there's just so much hope out there that, people need this kind of message that if you have or somebody basically who has been diagnosed, labeled with a disability, don't let that limit what you think they're capable of doing. They find workarounds. They want to be innovative. There are people like Ray and myself who also love to bring, just creativity into the process. Yeah,
and what's so wonderful is that when they're motivated to learn, it's not that much work. I mean, when you told me that basically you could take somebody and if you just intensively worked with them for 2-3 weeks, they could get themselves back and forth from someplace on the bus reliably. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen to them. And then that's taken care of. You're not going to have to worry about their ability to do that transportation. And so if you just
do some more things, do something else.
Just then tackle another thing intensively and say, okay, now you want to know how to make yourself whatever, chicken soup or whatever it is. And you just tackle it, practical applications. Instead of teaching math, teach practical how to manage money, and so you incorporate the math, because then once they know, oh, well, you're talking about money, now it relates to the real world, and instead of it being something abstract. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so anyway, so thank you for coming, Ray. It's been
You're
a
welcome.
pleasure.
It's been fun. I love to tell stories, as you well know.
Yes, I do. Thank you. And thank you for coming. And please believe in yourself and believe in the others around you. We tend to either live up or live down to what others project onto us. And we'll see you again.